Let me say first and foremost, I desperately want, and I think farmers and ranchers and producers across the country desperately want a farm bill this year. All right, and I think there's probably, well, let's see the audience. How, folks in favor of a farm bill this year, just clap. All right. So it's fairly clear to me that folks in the countryside want a farm bill. The question is, how do you get the votes for a farm bill? When only 2% of the population farm, 16% of the population lives in rural areas where the farms and ranches are located, you obviously have to also address the needs and issues of the other 84% of the country. And that's why you have a combination of nutrition assistance programs and farm programs. It's also important to point out, which is often not pointed out, that when you talk about food assistance programs, 16% of every food dollar goes in the farmer's pocket. Now, we all can debate whether that's fair or right, but the reality is 16 cents of every food dollar does, in fact, end up in the farmer's pocket. So as we look at food assistance programs, 16% of that is farm income. At the same time, the other 84% goes to folks who package, process, truck, refrigerate, store, shelve, sell food products, which often involves employment. So there are jobs connected to these programs. And during a tough economic time, you obviously want to help people through that tough economic time, and you want to keep people employed if you can. So there are a lot of combinations and a lot of reasons why you've got nutrition assistance programs linked to farm programs. Having said that, it's important that the Farm Bill contain a sufficient and adequate safety net. We're enjoying pretty good prices now, but every person in this audience, every person in this room knows that those good times don't last forever. And we have always a need for assistance of one form or another to basically get people through tough times. So as this Farm Bill is being crafted, whatever the number is, there has to be an assurance of a safety net. It starts with crop insurance. Representative Ryan's budget will reduce crop insurance at an even heavier rate than what the President has proposed. So there's an issue that has to be discussed. It must involve something in addition to crop insurance, because we know that crop insurance won't necessarily take care of all of the needs, and with input costs increasing, you need something that overlays crop insurance. The difference and the challenge will be, what is that? Every region of the country looks at it slightly differently. This audience is a Midwestern audience we have here today, so they could easily decide what that overlay should look like. But if we could get some Southern producers in here, they might have a slightly different view. So we've got to work through those differences. In addition, I think there has to be a continued commitment to conservation, because we know conservation works. We know farmers and ranchers want to be and are the best and first stewards of the land. And we know that there are outdoor recreational opportunities attached to improved conservation, in addition to water quality and improved environment, and maintaining our productivity in terms of the soil maintaining soil conditions. So all of that is extraordinarily important, and it has to be wrapped into a farm bill.
We heard from the Environmental Working Group this morning. They're proposing that there should be a link between conservation compliance and crop insurance. Would you support that?
You know, that's not, to me, we know from an assessment of programs that farmers are embracing volunteer conservation practices. We know this because we are assessing the interest in the Upper Mississippi River Basin Conservation Landscape Program that we've got. We know that folks in the Chesapeake Bay are responding to volunteer programs. I prefer to look at this thing in a way that, how can we sweeten the pot to the point where conservation is the right choice? And what we have focused on is trying to work with states like Minnesota to create a regulatory certainty effort. When they've got a water certification program, we work with the state to give producers some degree of certainty that the rules aren't going to change and the regulations aren't going to change. That's an incentive. We're also working with the private sector to see if by measuring and verifying and quantifying the results of conservation, is there an industry that would be interested in purchasing those results and creating new income opportunities that are attached to conservation? It seems to me that over the long term, that's a very valid and appropriate approach. It's an incentive-driven approach, and that's the one that we've been articulating.
Bottom line, what do you think will happen with crop insurance? Will the federal support go down? Will farmers have to pick up more of the tab? What's going to happen?
Well, I think you have to separate the three components of crop insurance, the insurance companies, the insurance agents, and the farmers. And I think the question is whether or not we have a system that provides enough stability for the insurance industry so that the integrity of the program remains, enough incentive for the agents to go out and basically sell and service the product, and sufficient subsidies for farmers basically to see this as a pretty good deal for them. I think we can strike a balance. There may be some tweaks and some adjustments. The President has suggested that perhaps a 12% return on investment it would be a little bit better than the 14% that insurance companies are enjoying today. Maybe that's a point of discussion. $900 a policy as opposed to maybe $1,000 a policy to the agents for servicing. There's an area of discussion. Folks who are subsidized more than 50%, in some cases producers will receive a 60 to 62% subsidy. Maybe there can be some adjustments there. At the end of the day, we've got to maintain the core of the program. And I'm very confident, regardless of whose proposal, whether it's Paul Ryan's proposal, the Republicans' proposal, the President's proposal, or the committee of the Ag and Senate House committees that worked on a $23 billion number, I'm fairly confident we're going to have a solid crop insurance program.